Hello, everybody. Spirit of 420 here because everything that I do is so 420. The stories that I share on here are 100% factual. The opinions are mine, and you can't have them, but you are more than welcome to share them. And just like everybody knows, mine smell like coffee and weed, which I am already digging into tonight. So tonight's topic, I did not make a decision as to what tonight's topic was going to be. Number one. Number two, I have a few different things that I probably want to discuss. I was actually talking to a buddy of mine last night. He was like, "You ought to tell that story." So I may end up telling that story. We'll just have to wait and see. He's rushing home right now to try to get home to see the show. So if it feels like I'm wasting time, I might be wasting just a little bit of time. And what better way to waste time on a show called Spirit of 420 than to take another hit? This is Big Blue Balls. I'm sure you can imagine how it got its name, right? That's not hard to figure that one out. And yes, I am, as usual, I am nervous. If Harley was here, she would tell me to stop being nervous. So I know in spirit, she's here. Spirit. Nonetheless, I will try to do what Harley would tell me. Oh, look at that. It's actually Harley's husband talking to me. Thanks, bro. My wife is great, and honestly, so is yours. Good people. Oh, I got to type. I can't. It's hard to do this. And honestly, so is yours. I know you're probably hearing it. And if you're not watching, well, I'm still telling it anyway. And so is yours. Good people. Not food vibes. Good vibes. Food vibes. All right, there we go. Oh, I didn't read it. Oh, I did not read it. My bad. All right. Well, no worries. Anywho, nonetheless, on with the show. Hopefully, look, we got some people here. There we go. There's a strange bird out there. Some of my regulars. Hey, what's up, Tori? And then we got Princess Buttercup. So, again, tonight's topic. Let's see what it is. Figure it out. I wrote down a couple of things. And let's see. Let me just go back to those. I had it here. All right. So, funny enough, I thought what might be fun to. Oh, by the way, normally what I say is set your mood music, if you will. By all means, put some good stoner music on. Eventually, hopefully, I can figure out a way to get my music that I made on here. But whatever. I mean, it is what it is. So, by the way, for those who are watching, one of the reasons that I'm starting off with the strange things is because if you don't know, I am polypansexual in an open marriage. But none of the stuff that I'm doing on Twitter, just so everybody knows, this is not about trying to find sexual partners. I'm all about just spreading positive vibes. That's it. So if anybody thinks differently, then I can understand that. I get it, but it's not the reality. And my wife is 100% aware of everything and everybody that I talk to. So moving on, I find it strange that I was raised by lesbians. And what I mean by that is I'm now 50, right? And back in 1976, when that started, that was that was far from the norm. Number one, far from the norm, right? You didn't really hear about gay people even having kids that much. And obviously because they're gay, right? They're not going to end up procreating, especially this is 1976. So when my mom came out when I was 4, it was strange. Let me just say. And I won't go into all that because I have plenty of time and many, many episodes to come. But the reality is, it was, how do you say, it was liberating because I was able to understand, if you will, a lot of things from the other side, from a woman's perspective. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try to say that I actually got to Mel Gibson's abilities and what women want, But I will say that I do believe I have a better understanding many times of what they are, you know, how do you say it? What they're feeling, what they're thinking. I feel like I'm more in touch with it, generally speaking. But not always. I mean, I'm still a man and I still don't have what the women have. So obviously it's not the same, right? I'm going to change the banner real quick so that we also get this up there for the vets. Duck and Dirty Medic will be, and y'all will end up, that's just what I call them. You can find them on my following. The only guy that goes by Duck on there. It's a lot more to it than that. And Dirty Medic. But nonetheless, they're going to be coming on the show Thursday and talking about 22-0. Let me go ahead and do this tab because I wanted to mention a little something about that real quick. $22-0 is the movement to try to reduce the 22 veteran suicides daily, obviously to zero. And by no stretch, it was funny because I looked up the what do you call it? The statistics. Sorry, I was trying to get that word out of my mouth on suicide in general because I was like, what I was curious as to number one, how many total suicides there were. I was also, with everything that's going on in my life and concerns with my son, I wanted to see what the number of teenage suicides was. And then I also wanted to understand the, percentage, if you will, of teenage veteran, and then the whole kit and caboodle. Funny enough, what I found out, and I saw two different numbers, so it's either 132 or 133. It's really the same. I'll go with 132 only in hopes that it maybe isn't as bad as it's been told. But I'm sure that the numbers are pretty real. But 132. So, if you take, and I'm not going to sit and do the math because I don't have my calculator out. But if you look at that, that's essentially right around a full sixth of the suicides are veterans. And that also means if you continue to look, then about a 12th, all in all, probably a little bit. If it's 12, then it would be a little bit less than that. So somewhere around between 11 and a 12th of all the suicides, a little over 10% is my point of the suicides are teenagers, and what is about right around 20, maybe a little bit less than 20% is veterans. And I mean, that's just any suicide, quite frankly, is horrible. And I think death by suicide is something that I hope nobody has to deal with because it's the ones that stay, that are here that have to really deal with it. As they say, death is no big deal. It's the dying. And so that's also that, they have to go through killing themselves, which I just can't imagine. I've been there many times, but actually not done it. And thank God for that. But, it's like these, you look at it, one's the future of our country, right? And they're essentially about more than 1 out of every 10 of the people that commit suicide is going to be one of them, and that's the ones that are coming up, that hurts. Then when I look at the fact that, sorry, I had to drink some coffee. Then when I look at the fact, I got some comments here. I apologize. Hey, what's up, bro? How's it going? Nice to see you. But Quack's in the house. There's the Duck right there. Hey, Duck, do me a favor. Go ahead and text your @ handle so I can flash it up here in a minute. I know you're listening. And if you come back, if you missed it, flash your handle, Duck. So back to what I was saying. Then, it's one thing that it's the future and it's that number. But then to look at the fact that nearly 20% of the people committing suicide every day are the people that defended this country. I mean, if people don't understand why I'm getting involved and why I now have that link in every episode for the Discord, they're actually, I know they're in the process of redoing a website. So I don't want to give the website out yet, but they had a website. It just is being rebranded, which is going to only make the cause better. And I'm not allowed to talk about any of the other stuff. Nonetheless, there's a lot of stuff really, exciting stuff going on. And I know that with every additional show that I do, and every negative Nelly that I lose, actually, I'm going to come back to that in a minute. It's going to bring more and more awareness, and just talking about a little bit at the front of each show, and as also then having an ongoing episode where we have vets on the show. I think that's going to help. I think it will help. It may take some time, but nothing happens overnight in this world, and nothing worth doing is easy. And anything worth having and anything worth gaining, it's going to take some real effort, period. So I did want to do a quick follow-up from last episode, because if everybody remembers, I was a little bit down because the follow situation, whatever. It's actually funny, because the outpour of support and following that I've gotten from some really, much better people, and some of the people that were already in my network, like it's just amazing the connections that I'm finding. And this is why I finally trusted in my path. And then, for me, it's God, call it whatever you want, light, karma. Finally trusted your karma. It really doesn't matter what you call it, but I finally trusted in the fact that everything happens for a reason, and just went ahead and put myself out there. And it's amazing. Again, you're going to get hit with a negativity. It's going to happen. In fact, the more positive you are, then the more negative will reach out and try to fuck your day. It's just the way it is. Of course, the flip side is that the more positive you're becoming, the easier it is to just brush that shit off. Like, as they say, water on a dove's wings, right? So I will not deny, between last show and this show, what I lost is so inconsequential. There, I was trying to get the word out, that it's actually a blessing, just like everything. One of the things I talk about is balance, and this comes back to, there is, in this world that we live in, there really is no right or wrong, because if you call someone a hero, right, then guaranteed there's a group of people that call that person a villain. It's just the way it goes, because almost always people they either have one view or the other. They either share your view or they have their own view. That doesn't mean that there's only two views to everything. What I'm saying is, when you just put two people up against each other, they either share the view or they don't. It's that simple. So, when connections are made and someone becomes popular and they become a hero, then you have to know that on the other side of those beliefs, especially the vast majority of those beliefs, it's going to be looked at as a villain, right? So obviously, if I'm doing this and I'm starting to be inspirational to people, and I won't dare call myself a hero when I'm having vets on, but someone who brings inspiration and a little bit of happiness to someone's life every once in a while, then, looks like I got this. Then, I know that I'm going to continually have things reach out and try to put me down. And the more I do it, the more that'll happen, but the easier it'll become to get over it. So it's it's kind of a beautiful thing. Someone today called it, what did she call it? It was Americana, and she had a word for it. Something like realizing yourself. I can't remember. I was having such a good conversation, and I'm a stoner. So what are you going to do? You can pretty much kiss the memory goodbye. It doesn't work that way. There it is. That is from Duck. You can also, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you can find Duck by putting in his real name too, because I do believe he has it shown on there. So, and Duck, you can tell me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that if I'm not mistaken, again, and obviously you folks can pause this if you want to read that whole fact, but that's a devastating fact, And again, I don't want to. And Duck, I know you understand what I'm saying here. All suicide is horrible. The fact that it's such a staggering number of vets that are doing it, when you look at all the different walks of life, I would venture to say, and I want to look at it because I think it used to be that the highest number of suicides for a long time was therapists, because they heard so many problems. But I would imagine that now by trade, by at least when you look at this type of vertical, I would imagine that vets are probably the highest single vertical, and it's not right, and I just followed a new guy that followed me, and one of the things I noticed that I don't think he was a vet, but he was shot and had been shot, so he deals with I believe epilepsy and I believe what is it, hemophiliac, when you bleed. I believe those were the two things. And then and his last line was PTSD is a bitch. And it is, I truly believe that, and Duck will spout out a message if I'm wrong here, but I truly believe that half of the reason that these guys end up taking their lives and doing that is because of the horrors that they've seen and what they're still dealing with here. And they don't get any therapy for that. They don't get anybody to say, hey man, let me hear your problem. Let me hear it. Tell me the story, dude. I want to hear it. I want to know what you did to defend my freedom. So moving on, again, it is balance though. Back to what I was saying about the balance. Doesn't matter what side you're on. The guy you call hero is also the guy that is being called villain by the other side. So to kind of get it light again, enough of the, and not that it's dark, it's just a serious matter. But I was going to talk about two strange things real quick about me. I'm curious, does anybody else, and I was thinking maybe that should be like kind of a tagline, does anyone else, or does anybody ever, or am I the only one? There we go, like that. Am I the only one that has like this total routine when they get out of the shower? And what I mean by that is it's honestly ridiculous because I have to follow it almost verbatim. It's hair and only one side of the towel is allowed to dry my hair and my face and my chest, right? But then it's a different side that I want to dry my back, my butt, and legs and crotch, because who wants to be putting that same side on there? So I'm real anal about it. I was just, to me, that's kind of strange. I'm curious if anybody else finds themselves ever drying off and going, hey, it is just really fucking nuts how fucking weird I am with the drying. So we'll see what happened. What was this? Yes, it does. I absolutely agree, Strange Bird. 100%. It's something, obviously, Duck is not going to disagree on this. I know not only do we want to reduce that number, but we would like to see the overall respect and care for vets, period, just improve. And I don't think I've ever talked to one vet, not one single vet. And if I have, I apologize, but I don't have memory of ever talking to a vet that said he was 100% happy with the way he's been treated since leaving the service. Now, what I will say is I have talked to a lot of vets, and I mean this sincerely, that say the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, whatever branch they went into, helped them tremendously. They got, as far as what the government did in concerns to their GI Bill and education and all that, I hear nothing but praise. So I don't want to make it sound like it's just the worst institution. My family was in it. I've talked about it. And anybody who isn't is proud to be in it. That's the horrible part, is you're proud to be a part of this incredible thing, and then you're treated like crap many times by the very same citizens that you're out there protecting, right? But I don't know how it keeps coming back. Oh, it's because somebody popped up the line there. Shame on you, Strange Bird. You got my mouth. What is this? I do the same. Yeah. Don't you? Right? Like, it's especially guys who either have a military background, or anything military. And if everybody remembers, not only is my family military, but I did go to military school. So I obviously, it was, especially in military school, like you had to be dry. You had to dry yourself in like essentially what was a 4-by-foot stand-up shower, because you'd be damned if you want to stand out there being, drying yourself butt naked, what's essentially in between two rooms, because you lived in what was called a suite. And that was 2 bunk beds on one side, 2 bunk beds on the other. And then there was a hallway with an open toilet and a shower that at least had a fucking shower curtain. That's a whole fucking series. That's a whole series. Yep. There's another one. Same. That's a whole series. I need to, I hope y'all can bear with me. It is live, so anything goes. So I just need to type this. So start. See, I don't know why. There's so many fucking stories, dude. Like and everybody has it, by the way. Like my buddy who's what is it, 18 years younger than me, continues to tell me how he doesn't have stories, and he'll never have the same stories as me. Again, he's only 32, so I mean, I have 18 years on it, but then he'll fucking sit there and tell me 5 stories throughout the night with my mouth. That really happened to you? Are you? Fuck, everybody has stories, dude. Everybody has stories. What's this? All starts with the location of the tag. That I'm going to have to ask. Location of the tag. I'm assuming that has to do with military, but I don't quite get it, and I do apologize, Duck. But I will always be transparent and tell you when I do get it and when I don't. Start series on uh, going to gone to military school. By the way, I wish I could share a text that I got from somebody with y'all, but I can't because I don't do names, and I don't even want to share it because you're smart and you'll put it together. All right, so I got that one. What was the next one here? Oh, so I already talked about this a little bit, but I figured it would be fun to kind of dive into it again. And what I mean by that is, I was actually talking to my buddy the other night, and I was trying to explain to him what polypansexual means in a nutshell. And I was like, essentially, think of it like this, dude. Everybody on this planet is someone that I want to sleep with, but I do, with the exception, they're the only ones that I do not want to, or do not have the want, or look at it in that fashion, would be anybody who is blood related. Obviously, my parents, my lineage, brothers and sisters, cousins, and all that kind of stuff. That's just, no for me. But what I'm really referring to, in the way that and what I'm trying to get him to understand, and hopefully you'll see where I'm going with this here in a minute. But every single person, because of who I am, is fuckable. Now, it doesn't mean that I'll act on those emotions. Number one, because I have what's called free fucking will, and I also have willpower, right? So even though I have these feelings, I mean, quite frankly, I've had feelings of killing people, and other horrible, dark feelings. We won't get into all to. But those are just thoughts. Unless you act on them, they're merely thoughts, and you're supposed to have them, because otherwise, actually, read about this. You're fucking insane if you don't have dark thoughts and then go, okay, it's not rational, something I thought about doing, but it's not rational. That's having that filter, right? Having that, as they say, that little voice inside your head that says, yeah, you're not going to do this. It's going to stop here with a thought. And obviously I do not fuck half the fucking world, not even a quarter, eighth, keep going down the line. Even with the number of people that I have been with, it's not near the world. And I also know that line is there, and that filter is there for almost everybody, because the only other people that share that thought and understanding is another pansexual who can truly go, yeah, I look at everybody and see, quite frankly, any guy should be understanding what I'm doing, because guys talk about this. Anytime a guy meets a chick, it doesn't matter if they're married to him. It doesn't matter if they work for them, or or the other way around. They work for you, you work for them. Doesn't matter. Once you hit about 12 and you've had an erection and or a wet dream, every female that you look at, you decide, do I want to fuck them or do I not want to fuck them? The only difference with someone like myself is that now includes every single person, because I don't mind men. I don't mind trans. I don't mind anything. Hell, I don't even mind aliens. Just teasing, buddy. I don't mind aliens, but I'm not directing that at you. My point is, I have no problem with any other being sexually that can give me the same feelings, and that's just respect and love and a good time. And I'm not talking about being in love either way. I'm just talking about free love, back to the same concept that they started practicing back in the day of Woodcock. I'm kidding, Woodstock. I always call it Woodcock. I mean, have you ever seen footage of that? Oh my God. By the end of it, they were all naked on acid, and it was just a fuck fest. I always dreamed of being born in 1950, because I would have been 19 years old at Woodstock. And trust me, had I just been born in 1950, I would have made Woodstock one way or another. Quite frankly, I know that I have vets listening, but most likely the guy born in 1950, that dude probably would have dodged the draft and done whatever he could not to go into the military, just so that I could stay at home and smoke up and fuck as much as I could. I'm just being transparent and honest, because I know what I did in my teens here, right? There was no military in my eyes. I didn't think about going into the military until I was in my late 30s. So back to what's strange. That really, though, helped him, because essentially it's really no different than who you are. Now, I can't say that women do that. Now I know there are a lot of frisky women out there that, and when I say frisky, what I mean is they think about sex a lot. In fact, I've met a few where I'm pretty sure they were men trapped in those. They were gay men, as a matter of fact, I would say, trapped in those women's bodies because of the fact that they were no different than any man. I mean, like just extremely promiscuous, you know, and won't hesitate to throw you to the side for the next dongling dick, which is no problem. You know, I mean, if you like sex, I mean, that to me, none of that is an issue. That's just the way I am. It's not the way everybody is. And I never cross those lines. So. And I found it's best too, like if you end up becoming friends with somebody, just on a side note, for anybody who lives this lifestyle and understands what I'm talking about, I would highly suggest don't ever test the waters with a friend unless you know for a fact that they've gone out and had experiences of their own well before you and really truly have the lifestyle. Otherwise, you'll put a kink in the chain. You'll do. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying this one at all from lack of experience. So if you can't put two and two together, you probably shouldn't watch a show called 420, Spirit Up, right? So, let's see what's going on. What time is it? 7:47. So I've been going for about 27 minutes. I'll tell a quick little story. I'm going to give it a minute. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this dab. And while I'm taking this dab, we'll see if I get enough people to say they want to hear a little ditty before I close it down for the night and get back to work, because I have so much to do. Duck, I have to do something specifically for Duck because he's being gracious and helping me out, and I've got to get it done. And then I also have projects, two projects that I'm working on for the cannabis community, as you well know. One is Spirit of 420. You all know that. And then there's the other one that I've been working on that a few people have seen, and I really am hoping, although my programmer got a dog, so he even told me he was supposed to come over for dinner this weekend, him and his girlfriend, but they got a dog yesterday, and I knew exactly what was happening once he said he's getting a dog. Like, yeah, you're not coming over. You might not even be over the next weekend, dude. You got to figure out if that dog's a puppy. You know, it's not just a dog. Let me be very clear. We're talking about a 6 months, maybe 6 weeks, however old they are appropriate to find a new home. They pretty much, got him right after that. I think they made the deal earlier. Yeah, I know they did, because he called me Monday and he was like, yeah, man, not going to be able to make it. I was like, what's going on? Getting a puppy. Okay, I get it. No worries. Yeah, I hope your house survives. Mine is still in the midst of surviving, because the two that I have are still constantly, little ditty. There we go. I like it. We got somebody cup set it. Someone got on the keyboard. But I don't know that one's enough. I mean, really, if you guys want to hear a little ditty, it seems like we should get more than just one. What was I talking about? Oh, that was one that just kind of went away. I will say this in conclusion of the weirdness before I go to the story, as I do this dab, and this is even how I ended it with my buddy. I think he got what I was talking about, and we'll see how many of you relate to this. Don't you love that whistle? I do. I know that I've gotten the hit when I start to. Okay, so back to the strange about sex, right? So obviously, I look at sex different than most people, which is strange in itself. But then I explained it to him like this. I was like, I'm in that same group. Because he was talking about what was it? He would really only masturbate, when it was necessary. I mean, we all admit now that we masturbate. We've already talked about that on multiple shows, so we all know that's a thing of the world, right? Everybody does it. Usually by, I would say, 13, we've all done it a handful to dozens of times. I personally peaked out over 100 before the first 100 days, but that's another story. What I will. Oh, there we go. There's another one. All right, we got two. Let's see if we can get 3. Let's see who's still listening. Actually, that's a test of your emergency weed cast system. But yeah, I tried to explain to him that I was no different than anybody else in the world. That I love to fuck myself. I actually quite enjoy making a spectacle out of masturbation. Don't just masturbate. Fucking fuck yourself. Have a great time with yourself. There's all kinds of different things that you can add to the masturbation experience on both sides. Trust me, it's quite liberating too. In fact, and I've never once, I can say this I've never once done it with a doll. I don't need a doll. But I have had a lot of toys. So let's just put it that way. But yeah, that's probably strange to a lot of people. But quite frankly, it's probably not so much strange to a lot of people as so much they're just ashamed to admit it. Right. So I will say this, more and more that I do this, I see other people's insecurities coming out. And it's funny because they get, there we go. Hey, what's up, Wilson? Wilson! Every time you're here, man, I'm going to do it. You know it. I fucking love you, dude. Back to what I was saying. It's funny to see people's insecurities, because if I can sit up here and say it, something I learned at 17, that was the first time that I did all 12 steps. Just so you know, I was 17 years old. And I've talked about this before. I'm not going to go much on a tangent. But one of the steps that you have to do is take a full inventory of your life. And then the very next step is you tell that entire inventory to what's called your sponsor. So by 17, at 17 years old, not even, it wasn't even full 17 and a half, because I went in days before I turned 17. I was there for 5 months. And I did this while I was in rehab, the actual rehab, if you will. There it is, man. The rehab that I was at, like I say, I was there for only 5 months, and this was I did this with about a month ago. So still very, very much a fresh 17, which at 17, 4 months into 17 isn't that much. Or I should say it's a huge amount of time. We know it's not that much now, but back then, quite frankly, it seemed like forever in that place. It did not seem like only 5.5 months. But back to the point. After doing that was the beginning. Everything happens for a reason. So that was the very beginning of me being able to tell anyone those deep, and when I say you take an inventory, I mean, just understand, people, you take a fucking inventory. Every little thing that you think is the worst secret, you tell. And eventually, y'all are going to hear every little dirty secret. It'll be great. I mean, honestly, I think I have more than enough to do a fucking ongoing TV series that would last nearly as long as my life, because every day adds a new story. Every day. I mean, I had a story today. I'm not going to tell you that story because y'all want to hear the ditty, and I get it. But the reality is, today was a fucking story, right? Yesterday was a story. I mean, technically speaking, each day gives me multiple fucking stories. It's why I always thought it was absurd, real quick, with Seinfeld, because they never did a story about, it was never, a show about nothing. It was a show about all the little stories that nobody ever talked about before. That's really all it was, because they're all fucking stories, right? So, back to where I was, and give me a second. I lost it for just a moment. I know I was going to tell the ditty. It doesn't matter. I think y'all get the point. I was really just probably rambling, which is what a good preacher does, I think. I did this one without glasses. Probably going to cough. Do it, my guy. Yeah, I'm going to. You got it. Don't worry. I'm getting ready to do it, Mr. Quack, 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 quack. I got to do it, but quack, quack. There we go. Give it a little more bass and rumble from those smoker lungs. All right, so I got to go back over here to remind myself of the story. Yep. So this story takes place, actually, funny enough, I've been alluding to it. I wasn't even really trying to. I wasn't thinking about it. But this story takes place when I was 19. I was fresh out of, not fresh, I shouldn't say fresh, because I got out and went to a halfway house. If y'all don't know what that is, it's what you go up. If you're in rehab, many times you'll go into what is literally a halfway. It's not rehab, it's not free world, it's a little bit of mix in between. You still have to do some checking in, but you do have a lot of freedoms, blah, blah, blah. Went through that, got out, ended up moving. That all happened in Hotlanta with that was where my mom was. Not, she wasn't in Atlanta, but that was where the rehab was. She was close to it. But I went back to South Carolina, and by this time now I was how do you say, steadily going to meetings. I was staying clean and sober. I had very few relapses when it comes to that. You know, funny enough, and something that they learned real quick. You know, it was one of the reasons why they quickly put me over into rehab, drug rehab, and got me on, because originally I went in on the psych ward for anger and depression and other things. But after just like a few testimonies of my average day, they were like, yeah, you need to go over there on the drug cap. But again, you know, going over there and doing this, I had really succumbed to the fact that the drugs were a problem. It was never alcohol. And I just want to be clear about that, because alcohol has never been something that I had an addiction to. I actually have always had a hatred for it. I only ever drank it, still to this day. Even when I go and buy alcohol and keep it here at the house, it's like, I'll tell you, there was a while that I drank, and y'all will find this funny. And don't worry, I'm going to come back to the story, the AA story. That's what we call it. Okay. Here, we'll just type it in so Michael doesn't forget. Oh, but see, typing it in, I just forgot about what I was going to say. Forgot what I was going to say. Anybody know where line that came from? We'll see if anybody knows. So I'll go back. I was going to tell you something cool. I was going to go off on something. And just like a good stoner, which means it wasn't supposed to happen, and if I'm supposed to remember it, it will come back before the end of the show. Everything happens precisely the way it's supposed to. I shouldn't say that. And what I mean by that is, if you know me, I've described it. Hold on. I didn't pull fast enough. I lost about 20% of that hit. But I didn't lose too much. So I went to AA and I stayed in AA, and I believed a lot of stuff in AA. It was alcohol. That's what it was. I got the AA. Alcohol. I do not like alcohol. I watched it kill too many family members, including, how should I say, it deteriorated and took a great quality of life away from both of my grandfathers. And ultimately it was that and smoking that killed one of them on my mother's side. So I've never had a thing for alcohol, but there was a time that I did enjoy drinking White Russians. Excuse me. Now, actually, what I ended up making, I called a chocolate Russian, because I took, instead of Kahlua, I would use, I'm sure everybody's heard of Godiva, right? The true chocolate liqueur, because I mean, it really does taste like chocolate. And if anybody's out there is a drinker and enjoys a good drink, I tell you, if you do 1 part Godiva, 2 parts cream, right, and then 1 part vodka of choice. Personally, I think most of the time back then I was doing Sky, if anybody knows the blue bottle. That moved on to Grey Goose, and then I ended up stopping. But anyway, I made chocolate Russians. And as a movie buff, you know, one of the things that, and see if anybody knows where this is going, but one of the things that I loved, what is this one down here? I missed it. Barry the Yep, Princess got it right. It's Archer. Forgot what I was gonna say. It's a classic show if anybody hasn't watched it. So back to the alcohol and my chocolate Russians. So as a movie buff, one of my favorite things as a pothead as well is I had so many movies that had marijuana smoked in them, or even if they just, it was always a classic of mine, even if there was just a scene. I mean, like, to give you a for instance, it's not a marijuana movie at all, but he smokes a joint in it. There's 2 joint smoking scenes in it, which I thrive on and smoke with them. I always smoke with my movies, right? That was my thing. Anybody else do that? Had to smoke with the movie, right? Fucking love watching Cheech and Chong and other ones, but again, half baked with it. Amos and Andrew, for instance, though, that is not a marijuana movie, but it's on it was always one of my top movies because twice in the movie they smoke pot. So now you know that I love to smoke pot with movies, and you know that I'm a movie buff that loves to do things with movies. And I started making an alternate version of White Russians. So can anybody guess what movie? And if you know me out there and you know this, you're not allowed to answer. And those of you who know me and know this, you know who you are. So what movie do you think that I would smoke pot and drink my chocolate Russian with? Think about that for a minute while I tell my story. That gives you something to stay around for. Poltergeist. No, there's no White Russians in Poltergeist. You are a strange bird. I think you just did that to prove to everybody just how strange you are, bird. So the story. I'm 19. I had now moved back to South Carolina. I was consistently going cuckoo. It's perfect timing every time. I was working for, and some of y'all may know this company. This is back. So this is to set the mood, 1991. And this is not, let's see, it's not cold yet. It's still quite warm outside because we were swimming. But I think it was towards the end. I want to say it was probably right around July. In fact, I'm thinking that it was maybe the end of June, and part of the story goes into July. And you'll understand what I mean by that in a minute here. So that's the time frame I had got. In fact, I know, yes, it was summer because I do know for a fact that I was working for Floor Daniel, which was a very large construction company. I think they're still around for all I know. I don't know why they wouldn't be. I mean, they were one of the largest construction companies of their day. I can't imagine that they went belly up. And at the time, they were building a brand new mead plant. That's MEAD. It was a paper mill. I'm pretty sure it was Mead that owned it. I might be wrong on that, but the paper mill, you can still find that plant. It's in Eastover, South Carolina. That's Eastover, all one word, South Carolina. That's where the construction job was at. I used to go there every day in my little Dodge Colt, which was actually nothing more than a Mitsubishi Mirage, for all of those who know. Yes. Okay. Now, you know what? You're not as strange as I thought. I apologize, Bert. I didn't put 2 and 2 together. And yes, you're absolutely correct. That's one that I did smoke with many times, but it wasn't as often. Merely because I saw that one. I know it's funny, but I saw that one as a kid with my stepmother. And, had I maybe seen it with my mom, then I might have had that same attachment. But I saw it with my stepmother and my stepsisters. I love my stepmother, and God rest her soul, she's passed. But I can't stand my stepsisters. And I've never really been keen on them. So I probably just, I know it's funny, but the way you see a movie sometimes the first time, even if it's great, because I fucking love Poltergeist, I never, and don't get me wrong, when I did watch it, I can tell you with all due honesty, I would literally pause it because I would fucking forget that Craig T. Nelson was about to be on the bed with his, funny enough, Strange Bird, it's funny you mentioned that movie because I did love watching it because my mom always reminded me of Mary Beth, whatever her face is. And they had, I think it was actually her that was rolling up. That's right. It was her that's rolling up. He's doing the exercises. But my mom always reminded me of her, number one. And number two, funny enough, my mother had the same fucking, it's not going to make it. I'm going to do a slow burn. My mother had the same exact cigar box that she kept her marijuana in because that was the thing that you did back in the late 70s, early 80s. Everybody, they also, Crown Royal bags were the thing that started the moment that marijuana started getting passed. And they were like, look, Crown Royal bag is like perfect to fucking put everything in. In fact, I told you I started smoking early. I'll tell you that real quick. for those of you who don't get it, this is how it started. Like, see, I start telling one story and then they just lead to another. But the first, my mom started smoking me when I was 12, right? And I think I said this the other night, but I started smoking with the the twins at 13, I believe. I said that the other night, and if I didn't, fuck you, I just said it now. I started smoking them at 13. Now, here's the funny thing. In both cases, grades and behavior got better. My boys, it's even more impressive because it was literally night and day. Like, all of a sudden, they were no longer getting in trouble, and their grades went up an entire letter or more, in the sense of not necessarily letter, but more than at least 10 points or more in every category. Tell me that's fucking coincidence? No, because they were calmer, they were less stressed every night. But here's what it is. I'll tell you this real quick. They were allowed in the beginning, it was just 2 hits. They quickly built a tolerance to that in like the first month. So I did up at 3, but then I stayed at 3. And the way that I did that was I was like, look, your tolerance is only going to continue to grow if I just give you 3, and then it's going to have to be 4, blah, 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 blah. So what I did, and smart stoner thinking, I gave them 2, and I would have them wait usually a little bit to when they were really, really feeling it, like usually 30, 40, maybe an hour later, and then give them 1 more. And those were not dabs, but it would either be a hit on the bowl or a hit off the joint or a bong toke, whatever the case may be. Maybe one of all 3. But it was regimented, it was followed, and it was delivered just like a medication. Holy fucking shit, it worked. They smoked the rest of their high school, and they did insanely great. So that's all I have to say on that. My mother, I started at 14. I said 12. I started drinking at 12, and I didn't start drinking. Let me be very clear. At 12 years old, my mother was gracious enough to give me, it was actually my mother and her lover, gave me a 6-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon, which I killed 3 of and then proceeded to pass out. I'm pretty sure I have to finish this story because it's really hilarious. There's one time I hit my mom, and I'm pretty sure, and I'll have to check with her and come back and tell you all this to be sure, but I believe it was that night. I mean, this happened. I just may not be getting the night right. But yeah, isn't that funny? Hilarious, right? And I'm not talking about this. I know it was the poltergeist thing. So again, that same night that I now had, because I drank 3 beers, I'm 12. Obviously, I crashed. I did not smoke. That happened at 14. That was why it was significant that my boys started a whole year earlier, and I was wondering the whole time if I was making the right decision. And lo and behold, God led me to the right decision. So, which has continued to happen. Anyway, so at 12, I was passed out pretty hard, and she tried to wake me up, and I just I socked her, man. I fucking just punched the shit out of my mother. I have no recollection of this punch. I mean, 0. I mean, still to this day, she'll tell you the whole detail, word for word what happened, and I'm just like, it's all I can do is laugh. I was 12, so we're not talking about a man punch, but we are still talking about a 12-year-old boy who was not the smallest boy. You can imagine if I grew to 6'1", I was not a tiny boy at 12 years old, right? It was not an entire all shoot up at 13, 14, although I did shoot up at 13, 14. All that happened was the big boy became a tall, thin boy. So 14, that was where I was going with this. Yeah, I actually even know where I am, believe it or not. I've been keeping track. It's all going to come back around to the AA story. Don't worry. We're nearly there. Eastover, South Carolina. Don't worry. I got it. What are we doing? No. So 14 is when I started smoking, and that story has already been documented. So go back and watch that if you want. That's part of Tales of a Drug Lord. That was really where it all started, right? Was when I started smoking. And you'll understand that if you watch that video. But back to did I make I could really get kind of gross here, but I don't know how some of you will take it yet. So we'll do that. 14 years old, I started smoking with my mom, and that same weekend that I felt, it was such an honor. It was so funny. Even looking back on it now, I remember like, this is so fucking cool. But after we smoked together, one of the first things that she did within like a few days is put together my first Crown Royal marijuana bag, and it was a Crown Royal bag. It was a tray. I don't know if y'all know the way to take a standard wire hanger and make a great pair of roach clips, but that's something that I learned I learned that before I got the roach clips. I'm not kidding you. I knew how to roll a joint well before I smoked marijuana with my mother, because I used to help her break it. Anyway, it was a fun life. Quite frankly, I will never forget it, and it all happened the way it was supposed to. Yeah, but I felt such an honor because she gave me these one that she had made, not that, maybe like a year or something ago, but she had done macrame around them, so they had this nice design of what do you call it, twine, right? And then had a little tail on it, so they kind of hung. And of course, I got papers, right, and a bag of marijuana, like a little baggie to put my marijuana in, because at the time I came there with pre-rolled joints. Again, you got to go back and watch the whole episode, but I put those pre-rolled joints in a Skull long cut mint can that no matter how hard you wash that out, that still keeps a real harsh smell of mint. So those first 4 joints smoked with mom were like menthol joints. Literally, it was like it was like smoking. Of course, it's funny. I smoke menthol now. I've never told that story, but that's one for it. So Eastover, South Carolina. There you go. That was the end of it. Back around to see how the Crown Royal bag took us. Oh, I know it happens. It's cool. But I can't do this on the road. This is weird. Like, I finally figured out this is the medium for me to just get high. And once I get over that immediate nervousness, like in the media, I was like, oh, don't you remember I was shaking like a fucking leaf? I think that'll go away less and less, in the sense of that'll happen less and less in the beginning. But this is what people have always said you need to do. And this, I was like, well, how do you do that in a stand-up comedian format? And what I mean by that is, I want to tell a different story every night. I don't want to tell the same fucking story. And dude, kudos to them. I was offered to do comedy years ago, and the guy said to me real plain and simple, he's like, if you write a solid 7 or 10 minutes, that's all you need. You need 7 to 10 minutes worth of solid material, and I can get you on the tour. And I didn't take him up. That's one of those missed opportunities. This whole story, we'll talk about it. But back to it was actually funny. I was 19, and that was shortly, that story happened shortly before I went back to South Carolina. It was shortly after getting back to, I was still 19, but it was after I left South Carolina and went back to Atlanta. Again, the story continues. I was a real nomad. After going into treatment, I became just, very rarely was I more than anywhere 2 months, right? And most of the time, many times I was couch surfing. Look it up. So 19, I'm going to at the time, I'm living with my father. I got this job. I was trying to do good. Don't get me wrong. I tried several times to live what society told me was the correct life. That's all I know to say, right? I tried to do that more times than I am years old. Period. Because at 19, that was not my first fucking try at whatever normal or whatever society considers to be normal was, right? I know I've gone long, but fuck it. I'm there. I'm feeling it. And you gonna stop me? Turn it off. I don't give a shit. It'll be here for all the other, which by the way, we're at 59 subscribers. Just a shout out real quick. Let me finish the other thing. I'll come back to that. But, you never know where things are going to go, period. But I do want to give a shout out. 59 subscribers, almost 1,100. At last I looked right before the show, it was 1096. So thank you, everybody who's tuning in. Thank you, everybody who's reached out. Thank you, everybody who has shown support, positive, and all that good stuff. Yeah, I love it. Please continue. So I'm 19. Like I said, I was very nomadic, never spent a lot of time anywhere. But at this particular time, I was with my dad, and I was going to multiple meetings a day. And I like to mix it up. For those of you who don't know, you have Alcoholics Anonymous, you have Narcotics Anonymous, right? And if that wasn't enough, Cocaine Anonymous had to come out separately altogether. That has hence become essentially cocaine and opiates, because the addiction to those are considered so much stronger than I guess, back in the time. What's funny, when Narcotics Anonymous came out, that was for weed, because it was a narcotic, which it still is, by the way, in the federal government's eyes. And can we all remember that, to please fucking change that? I talk to so many people in other countries all the time where weed isn't legal. I talk to people in other states right now where weed isn't legal, and they have to fucking go through the shit. It's just, oh, dude, it's a medicine. It's not a cure. It doesn't cure anything, but it does subside a hell of a lot, and it makes the world a fucking better place without hurting you. Can I get a series of fucking amens? It would really be nice to know that people are still listening. I don't care who you are, where you are right now. Just start throwing amen up, and I'll put them up as they come through. I know there's lag. I'll look back over there in a minute. So, very nomadic personality. It's funny because for those of the people that know me, I essentially married a gypsy for all intents and purposes. 19 though, and I'm going to these multiple meetings, and I was telling you AA, CA, and NA, and I would many times go to like one of each. And it was funny because I was working this Eastover job, and you're talking about 19, not doing drugs, drank a lot of coffee, smoked a lot of cigarettes. I was working, and it was called a shutdown crew, just to continue to say, and I will make it quick if I'm boring anybody. I really don't care. I'm just enjoying telling the story, and this is the details. It's the details that matter. 19, and you fucking go like a Energizer bunny at 19, right? Like you can just keep going, right? I worked a shutdown crew, which was a 12-hour shift for 7 days straight. 7 days. Then you got 7 days off. 7 on, 7 off. That's shutdown. And you'd come in for 12 hours, and we were part of demolition. So when these huge plants go up, in a very quick and easy way to think of it, even though concrete and rebar is put in place, many times those are temporary foundations or temporary pillars, temporary walls, whatever the case may be for the future plans, but they have to be there until they get to a certain point of construction. Okay. I know it may not make sense to you, but for the simplest of terms, certain walls, even concrete with rebar reinforcement, are temporary, and they know they're temporary from day one, but they have to be there. And grunts like me, and I didn't mind, because you add up the hours, you're talking about 84 hours a week. I got literally 44 hours of overtime pay. There's one, got 2. Let's see if some more end up coming. I mean, this is legalization of marijuana, people. If you hear that part, just say amen. There's no reason why you wouldn't. Legalization of marijuana, fucking men. Amen. If you've already done it, ignore it. So in the shutdown crew, what I did every day was literally come in, and it's funny because you're in a rotation. My crew had, I want to say it was a 12-man crew, and we would have to put a mask on and this stuff, because I'm there with there's a name for this type of tool, and I can't remember it right now, but again, simplest of terms, layman terms, it's a handheld jackhammer. Okay. It might even be called that for all I remember. But it's literally a handheld version of the exact same tool as a jackhammer, so that you can, it's more maneuverable. It's obviously much lighter, but it does the same exact thing and just chisels away. And all we're doing all day is chiseling away fucking concrete. When you get the rebar, you cut the shit, right? And the way you do it is a 12-man crew is 6 on, 6 off. So you literally, you go in 45 minutes. So your 12-hour day gets broken down into 45 minutes on, 45 minutes off, 45 minutes on, off until lunch, then an hour lunch. You do get 2 15-minute breaks as well throughout the day. And then that's it. So 12 hours, all in all, you work what amounts to, I've done the math, but it ends up being like maybe 7 total hours is what you actually end up working. But you're also working, I mean, it's hardcore labor. If you've ever held one of these things, if you've ever even done a jackhammer, you understand, like it's just constant. Well, if you're doing like this, it's just the same thing, except you're just doing it right up against a wall, or worse, you're in some fucking awkward. I mean, there was all kinds of crazy places that we had to take shit out, And if we weren't doing that, then we were collecting fucking garbage, or we were tearing down something else, But I remember that one specifically because there was this one wall that, that was my first fucking week. I told you, you're week on, week off. My first week, that's what we did. That wall. It was just because it took forever, man. It took forever. And here I am going to these 12-hour days. I kid you not. I'd go home, take a shower, and then go to fucking meetings. Right now, during the 12-hour days, I would not catch 3 meetings. Okay. I didn't physically have enough time in the day to do so. However, on the week off, I would, right? But this case, it was actually this night occurred during a 12-hour shift. So I went to a meeting, and there was this cute little girl that had my eye, and I had her eye, and we had hit on each other. And I also had a buddy, right? And this is where all the open-mindedness, if you will, kind of started on this night, I guess you could say. Fuck that. I was open-minded from birth, but this was when it got a little more interesting sexually. Long story, much longer. She ends up inviting us. We go to the meeting. We have a great time. The meeting was very good. And I try to remember the location where we were. I'm pretty sure it was an NA meeting that we went to that night. I'm only giving you that because the CA meetings were usually full of hardcore drug addicts that were typically in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. And usually that was at a hospital. Whereas NA meetings were usually at like a church, and it was really much younger. You're talking about as young as 13 years old in these meetings, right? And there would still be people in their 50s and 60s, but the bulk of the people were between the ages of like 13 to like 22, fairly young, all young kids. I mean, the way I look at, no offense, anybody that age now is still a kid to me. And my boys know they just turned 22, but they still feel like kids. So she invites us back to her house, tells us that her parents are cool. They are. And it's late now because we ended up, I told you I'm going to shorten it. I was trying to set the premise and where everything was and who I was. But we had a night out. And a night out when you're sober means we would go to a place called Goat Feathers in downtown in 5 Points, South Carolina, and get ice cappuccinos, and smoke cigarettes like they were joints. Because at the time, it was not even cool. When you quit everything, and you weren't allowed to be smoking pot. Nowadays, there's a lot of people who, because of the whole thing I went off on alcohol, like there's a lot of people who give up alcohol and they still smoke pot daily and they have no problem with it. And their lives are quite manageable because pot by itself, I just read an article, side note, pot is now considered an exit drug. Isn't that funny how things have changed? Beautiful. But we had a night out, ice caps, bunch of cigarettes, go back to her house for it's already after midnight, but we're calling it a midnight swim, right? Because we get to her house and it's like 12:30, 12:45, maybe 1 o'clock already. And honestly, her parents were cool. We sat there actually, and I'll never forget it. Watched a little bit of Tales from the Crypt, I think is what it was. Or there was a Stephen King movie that was a bunch of stories. Yes, because Stephen King starred in it with the green stuff got to him. I think it was Tales from the Crypt. It's an old movie. I'll have to look it up and come back to it. But the parents were fucking cool. I remember this. We got there like it was well after midnight. She goes and change, and even while she was changing, she was being quite promiscuous and had been, leading to things. And we end up having a good swim. It's fun, but while we're swimming, it got even more frisky. Let's just say a lot of touching underneath the bathing suits, right? And it was to both of us because now remember, if I didn't make it clear, it's myself, a good buddy of mine at the time who I couldn't tell you his fucking name today, and this chick who I am trying to be as transparent as I can. She was either 15, 16, or 17. I cannot remember. I believe it was 16. That's what my gut tells me, which is why I even remember thinking that it was actually cool that the parents were, they were quite honestly what felt like they were okay with their daughter being this extremely promiscuous person as long as she wasn't doing drugs. Right? I guess that was the whole thing. And it was odd to me because we are talking about South Carolina, which is known as one of those Bible Belt states. So to wrap it up, we end up getting out of the pool and we're drying off and we're still wet. We just have our towels and flip flops. And she's like, "Hey, you want to go down the street and see this graveyard? It's a colonial graveyard, which means it's 1700s, right? This is every grave on there was like 1778, 79, 80 something. They were all 17. It was really, just on a side note, really fucking cool and really fucking creepy because one of the first graves that I read, I kid you not, it hit me. It was like a 10-year-old, right? It was like from 70 something to 80 something. I was like, oh, dude, that's a fucking kid, right? And as all those kind of thoughts happen, that's when she's like, okay. My buddy, I told the story to him the other night, but he didn't get to hear the real deal. I saved it. I had to, buddy. I had to. She looked at us. Now, don't get me wrong. I knew, we both knew that something was happening, right? But she looked at us and she's like, okay, you guys can fuck me, but you got to fuck me together. Oh man. It was now like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. My memory is that it wasn't quite a full moon, but it was almost, or maybe it was, and I'm trying to deny it, but I know it was bright as fuck. I needed no lighter. I needed no type of light. There was no light over this graveyard. It was just so fucking bright. You could see everything like it was day almost. Like, I mean, I could just read the gravestones and I could clearly see this because as right after she said it, bikini was off and here's this butt naked chick. And by the way, and I didn't tell anybody this graveyard is just literally right off the side of the road, right? The way that times change over the years, the road, and it's a paved road, is literally right here. And then the graveyard is right here beside it. So, cars could have driven by. I mean, this is not the first time, by the way. Sorry. This was the first time that I was in a public manner. This was far from the last, but this was the first time technically where I could have easily gotten caught. It's amazing how many times I've gone at it in public and didn't get caught by the law. Honks, yes. Screams, yes. Law, no. So, yeah, we locked her up like a pair of Chinese finger cuffs, man, as they say, over a gravestone. And I remember thinking to myself, is this really okay? Today I'm still okay with it. I'm pretty sure we didn't do it over the kid's grave, number one. And secondly, I will say this. I'm pretty sure that anybody that was present, any souls or spirits, were only egging us on. That's all I can say. And I have yet to tell y'all some of the whoppers. If you think that's a whopper, it's really not. It's one of the early ones. One of the next ones actually was while I was 19, was the first time I took a shower with a woman, and she was 27, Italian, and 2 inches taller than me. But we'll save that for another time. I think y'all know where I'm getting ready to go. I have actually done something new. I emptied the coffee, so I can't do the. No, I guess I won't just sit there. Okay. I hope somebody got a laugh out of it. I was actually doing that in lieu of Andy Kaufman. God rest his soul. What a great outside the fucking box dude that was. That guy has. I actually have nothing but respect for him, and gained a whole new respect for Jim Carrey due to the fact of how much research he went into and how deep he went into playing. There's a whole fucking documentary, by the way, for those of you who don't know. My mom told me about it. I had already heard about it and was wanting to watch. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, just because lately I haven't had a chance to watch anything other than if I make myself go see a film. Which, by the way, I will be doing another episode of Flick Dick. Flick Dick will be investigating a new cheese fest that we all know is happening called Jurassic World, the final cheesening. But anyway, I don't get to watch much anymore, so there was something that I was talking about. Oh, I lost it. It really doesn't matter. You'll probably know where it was going and figure it out for yourself. Or somebody has a real quick chance to tell it. I missed that one, Buttercup. Sorry. So I don't have coffee, but I can still do my tagline. I'm kidding. Oh, it was Kaufman. That was it. Was Andy Kaufman. All I was saying is go. There's a documentary about Jim Carrey playing Andy Kaufman. Both of those comedians are stand-up dudes. Obviously, there's a lot of things that Jim says politically, but there was a lot of things that even Andy said politically. Everybody has, just on that note, real quick, I do want to say this. I don't care what your political views are. I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I don't care the color of your skin. I don't care your religious belief. I don't care about any of that. Because if I get to know you, I'm getting to know you. I'm not getting to know the things, those other things. They'll happen through getting to know you. My best friend has his religion, and we don't. I'm more spiritual, and he has his religion. I know more so than spirituality. And quite frankly, we're opposite parties. It doesn't matter what they are. We're not the same party. And I fucking love that dude like anybody else, right? Because that shit doesn't fucking matter. Those two dudes were really cool. And they had a lot of great things to say and a lot of great ways at making people laugh that were unconventional. And that was all I'll say on that. And if you don't believe me, that's probably because you have an opinion. And as everybody knows, everybody has opinions and everybody thinks that everybody else's stinks. Mine smell like lack of fine brewed coffee. My breath fucking definitely stinks like coffee right now with all of it. And they also, though, my opinions, they reek. They fucking reek. That was what we used to say when we got out of the car after having breakfast at the ripe old age of 13 when I was a sophomore in high school. We would have breakfast, which consisted, by the way, between four of us, and told you I didn't drink only to be social, but we'd have that breakfast, and that would be, now it was 15. I said 15, right? If I said 14, it was 15 because I was a sophomore. It consisted of three or four of us with, we would usually have a 12 pack. Sometimes we would even have a 24 pack. We never finished it off. If we had a 12 pack, though, we would finish that off with at least 1 to 2 joints before we got to school. And if mom's ever or dad ever sees this, yeah, I was getting ripped. I think I already told you all that. So mine stink like that kind of fucking weed and have reeked like that kind of weed for years. I know we went long tonight, so we'll blame it on John Holmes. I'm sure everybody gets the reference. I love each and every one of you. I really do mean that. It is a world of ones I get to know. I love even more and love even deeply in different ways. And I mean that. Everybody out there, I really appreciate the support. Have a great evening, and we will see you on the next episode. Got to get over here to the closing screen. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful weekend. I shouldn't have gone long because I really have work to do, but it all just seemed to flow that way. So until the next episode, remember, next week I will be on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Thursday will be a special episode. It will be live streaming. We will have Medic and Duck on that episode telling stories from, will be stories from vets and other things. Be concentrated on, obviously, 22 to 0. Thank you so much. Till next episode.
One.